Podcast.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, great show last night.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So, how'd you guys meet? Like, take me back. How did all this start?
The beginning.
Yeah.
I'll start. The beginning was...
Firstly, introduce yourselves.
I'm Stephen from The Natural Culture.
Yep.
I'm Sarah from The Natural Culture.
We have Carmen over here from The Natural Culture, and she's also signing for us.
Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, awesome.
She's awesome.
And I'm Zach. Nice to meet everyone.
Yeah.
And if you want to know what we do, you have to come to one of our shows.
Yeah, definitely go to one of their shows.
Yeah.
It's mind-blowing, and I'm going to put all the links
Awesome.
to you guys up on the description.
Thank you.
Awesome.
So, yeah, I mean, let's go back. I want to hear it all, man.
So, how it started, music school, North Queensland Conservatorium. I was studying. I'd gone through most of the course, and towards the end, a friend came up and said, "Oh, this singer wants a guitar player to go and do some gigs." And
that was me.
I met Sarah.
Sarah.
But it was
just sorry, mate.
it was
keep that
quite
fist away from your face.
it was quite awesome because it was like, "I'll come and meet this singer," and we went off to the bush and did this gig for a school teacher, and started gigging, and now a lot of years later, we're still playing together, and we've basically travelled most of the country playing, but that first relationship was just...
That was in the 90s. That's how long ago it was.
Yeah, that's cool.
So Sarah came along and said, "I'm going to Melbourne from the bush of Mackay, and I'm leaving in 2 days."
No, it was 2 weeks. Oh, well, I said a week, and I gave him an extra week to sort his stuff out, and I was trying not to,
15 years later.
More than 15 years. You got to get better at maths. Yeah, it's like 20-something years later. We started out as a duo, and then 2011, we released our first EP as the band, and we pretty much just gathered people to play. There were a lot of session musos at the start, and then we found a crew that we stuck with for about 3 or 4 years, I think.
Travelled Europe.
Then everyone sort of disbanded after a while, and we gathered another group of people, and we went through like that for a while, and then we found this awesome dude. So we have been playing for how long with you, Zach?
Coming up to...
It'll be 5 years now.
5 years.
Wow,
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're the core members, and we get session guys in to jump in, depending on where we are. Sometimes we get them from wherever we're playing, or sometimes we take them with us from wherever we were playing.
Yeah, that's so cool. And so you're pretty much touring all the time, yeah?
Well, we were.
Until the period we don't speak of.
Yeah.
So,
I think
and
it was
then...
tough for a lot of...
Yes.
It was incredible.
Yeah, but we're moving past that now, and we're getting back on the road, so
that's
that
cool.
includes more international. We've started, the east coast of Australia again slowly, and then we thought, why not New Zealand?
Yeah.
A little bit further east.
Well, welcome to New Zealand. Bloody
Thank
good to have you here.
Yeah.
It's so good. I mean, personally, like last night, my mate just came round and he said, "Oh, there's this band playing at the Navarra Lounge. I think you'll like it." I was like, "Oh, pretty tight." But yeah, and then we went down and it was amazing. So yeah.
Thank you. That's good.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's so good to have bands like that, especially at our. We've got musicians in Hamilton have got a real affinity with the Navarra Lounge, and it's just great to have you here.
Thank you.
So good, and thanks for coming on the podcast.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Well, our pleasure.
Yeah. So, how long have you been in New Zealand?
We've been in New Zealand pretty much for the last week and a half now.
Yep.
We've only got 2 days left, so
Yeah.
we're going to try make most of it. So yeah, we got in about 2 Wednesdays ago. We flew into windy Wellington, nearly got blown away, and we've just been here ever since, and just loving every bit of it.
Cool. Where'd you play in Wellington?
We actually didn't play in Wellington. It was more of just our first port of call.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
our first gig was in Picton.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so it just made sense fly to Wellington and then get the ferry over.
Yeah.
And we were actually lucky enough to get booked for a gig on the Inter-Islander ferry.
Oh, nice.
But we ended up not playing because they had issues with their main ferry. So we got put on one of the other ones, which was fine. We managed to still get free passage, so that was all right.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, and then we sailed over to Picton and played that night, and it was really lovely. That is now our first ever gig in New Zealand. That one
Oh,
there.
cool. Yeah, and how was the Picton crowd?
It was good.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was funny because it was on St. Patrick's Day, which none of us really knew about. Like,
We didn't realise
Realise
it
it
was
was-
the same. It was like, oh, what is all this green everywhere?
yeah, so everyone was dressed up in all the the St. Paddy's stuff, and we were like, oh, okay, like this could work really well or not so well. It was a bit of a slow burn. There was a couple of people there, and they were just happy to see the music. And then as we played a bit more and more people
filled
came.
up.
Yeah. Ended up like being a pretty decent night. So pretty happy about that.
Yeah, so it's kind of cool that you guys start with your instruments, and then you change, like the gig changes, and you get into more like it's almost like funk. Hey, so you've got yeah. So like, tell me about the progression of that. Like, obviously you guys met at music school, and just like coming together and developing your show like that. Like, how did that all come about? So. You've obviously playing your orchestra instruments and then changing to guitars and funk and all that sort of thing. So was that like a natural progression for you guys, or were you just started out as an orchestra band, or?
So the New Orleans, the marching stuff is more a later edition.
Yeah.
We started with the funk, soul, reggae style, and then this young lad went over to New Orleans, and that was the end of it.
Yeah.
Oh, I
It's
fell
like,
in
and
love.
you're going to play the drum, and I'm going to play this massive horn. So, yeah.
The culture there is amazing, and
Yeah.
that's how it came together. I guess, in my view, is I played a lot of groups in Melbourne when we were playing, and there was a lot of cultural musics in Melbourne where guys was playing Latin or this style or Brazilian music, but they were never really fusing it a lot. And I kind of went, well, you know what? I love nature. I think that's really important, but I also love the fusion of the culture, because a lot of cultures have all these little aspects that are pearlers. So how it came together for me was then New Orleans was like the icing on the cake, because I'd had this Latino influence, this Brazilian, this African. I had all these bands, and then I hit kind of New Orleans and went, holy shit. Like this is like, where have you been all my life? Because how they live, it was vibrant. They were all the people. If you went to New Orleans, you went there for the music.
And the food.
Yes, of course, but food was a big part of the culture.
yeah.
Like, it's like, I'll come around for a barbecue, and it's like, we'll come in the morning, the barbie will be ready at like 7 o'clock at night, but we'll spend the day preparing and jamming and eating and munching, snacking, and so that's how the fusion came. And luckily for myself and Zach, the period that just sort of stopped the world, the last 3 years, we just spent it shedding, practicing our new additional instruments. So, Zach plays trombone, but 3 years ago he,
Wasn't a thing.
So this
Wasn't
is
a
the thing.
thing.
You just picked up, right?
We picked them up in the
Because it kind of seems like it's like that's how you started, and then you progressed into the jazz, funk, soul stuff. Like, so it's really cool.
I'll
take that
take that as a compliment.
well, it
Yeah.
is.
So good.
It's done. I mean, Zach's he's a studied musician, so he just picked it up. It's kind of funny. You learn one instrument, and I find the more instruments, if you're willing,
If you know the language, the music language, you can pretty much pick up and apply it to anything.
Anything, yeah.
if you're willing to endure the technical exercises, and that in itself is a little hill climb. So if you like climbing hills or mountains, you go, well, I'm going to learn this, and I find it becomes a little effortless once you are creating music with that. You know, and then the technique just helps you to do it at a better level.
Yeah. I mean, once it's a series of notes. It's just the expression of the player, really. But once you've got the mechanics right, and that's the hard part, right? But that's.
And the thing is you could commit. Yeah. So to me, I find you can once you do it once, you go, oh, that's the mechanics of it. So you kind of go, well, I'm going to get to skip all the rubbish and just do these technical exercises all the time until your level gets to a point, and then you can just create music. And I mean, touring's fun because I started out on the sousaphone with one tune, and that started with one note. You know, it's like, I can get B flat, but it's not in tune and it sounds terrible. So the progression, you know, and then you're like, I've got one note, and hey, I can play one tune, and you know, it just sort of grew from that. So that was fun to be able to, and you know, there's that moment of frustration too, because sometimes if you can play something really well and then you get on another instrument and you'll cactus.
You have to have a lot of patience. A lot of patience.
Yeah.
But so that fusion is where I come from. Fundamentally for me, it's about nature and how we all grow. The earth needs us, and it doesn't. We need it, and it doesn't need us.
And sharing the different cultures and not being exclusive to any particular. Actually, a lot of our session guys say it's fun to play with us because nothing's ever the same. It's always exciting and different. They don't have to just focus on one genre. So that's a plus, I guess.
Yeah, like sometimes you go to a swing gig and it's just
swing the whole time.
Jazz tunes, you know, and they'll have a variation of tempos and some styles, but it'll be jazz, predominantly jazz. So with us, I like that fusion of culture and sort of picking all the bits from all the cultures because they stand the test of time, and obviously that test is because it's good.
Yeah,
you know?
It got. I mean, that's what I noticed from you guys last night. From the moment you came in, doing your sort of New Orleans stuff and the marching band type thing, into your on stage and your gig. There's some real substance there, and like it just sounded like you were listening to a recorded session. So like your sound is fucking amazing, and so no, it's really good. So what's so you've gone to music school, and so how much touring did you do of Australia? So it's 15 years. Is it all the time, or you guys?
We were full time.
Yeah.
Basically, I'm going to say the word, but pre-pandemic, we were touring 9 months of the year, solid 6 gigs a week.
Wow.
And then we'd push to take 3 months off, but that'd normally get booked out. And that period when we came back to Melbourne, we were coming back for 3 weeks.
Just to check on the house.
Yeah.
3 weeks.
Say hi to everyone and then go
Back
again.
yeah.
And
it
got caught.
got shut down, and it was 3 years. But we were happy. We kind of
We
had
got a lot of recording done, which was great.
and we had our house, which we called the bomb shelter, because we were all bunkered down. Which, but that was the touring life was amazing, and so fundamentally the duo used to tour. We'd get offered a bigger gig, and the band had come together. Yeah, right. And then we
sort of turned it around now. Now it's just the band gets offers and the duo, we just sort of
fill in the gaps.
when we can.
Yeah. So what sort of are you doing? Just place to place, small venues, and are you doing festivals and stuff like that as well?
We do a few festivals over there. It's kind of, if it's within the budget, because it's expensive to get 7, 8 people for a festival gig. The festival lineup's a little bit bigger, so that is a little harder. And then to get your gigs around it to make it worth the travel. Because flying with all of our equipment.
Oh, it must be.
I mean, it was a test bringing the horns over this way because it's scary.
Did you sort of pre-book over here before you came, or is it just on a whim?
No, Zach, we booked this tour for last year, but it got
cancelled.
So
we sort of laid the groundwork for this tour in 2021, ready to come in 2022, and so I was looking at all of the dates of when the borders were opening and when this was allowed, that was allowed, all of that sort of stuff, and I had the whole tour booked. And then once I heard that they were extending the close of the border, I went, okay, like that's a bummer, but at least I have all this groundwork in place so that when it was time to come over here, it was just a matter of just going, give the green light and make that all happen. And then that came. So we got given the green light and now we're here. So this is sort of the result of a tour that we had organised a couple of years ago, now finally coming to fruition. So it's pretty good.
And did you fly up from Wellington, or did you travel up? Like, you obviously got your van.
So we picked up our van in Wellington, and then essentially we spent the night there, and then we went over to Picton and we did those shows in the South Island, then we caught the ferry back to Wellington. Spent another night, and then we drove up to Hamilton via New Plymouth, so we did the West Coast there.
Yeah, cool.
And because we were trying to toss up between either going through the middle, like through like Rotorua and all those areas, or going the East Coast or the West Coast, and I thought, let's just try the West Coast. It looks lovely. We heard a lot of really good like feedback about the beaches and stuff there, so we thought, let's just have a look at that. But the thing that also really enticed me about the West Coast, because I was looking at a map of the North Island, and I could see this nearly perfect circle in the southwest corner. And I went, what the hell is that? So I zoomed in and I thought maybe it was like a really big park or something like that, but I thought it's way too big. You can see it like from space, literally. Can't be that big. And I zoomed in, and it was a volcano. It was Mount Taranaki. And I thought, oh my God, that's incredible.
It's pretty cool.
It was pretty cool. And I thought, well, we might actually get to see it on the way up.
Maybe.
Because I was like, I'm not too sure what the visibility's like or anything like that. And it's like we came over like this hill. It was not long after one of the towns down there, and it just came up in its full glory. We went, wow.
We chased it for a bit, and then we were like, okay, here's a good photo op.
It's beautiful down there. It's a really nice part of the country, Taranaki.
It is.
And then we kept coming up, and we went into where they have the glowworms in the cave.
Oh, Waitomo?
So we kind of did the little bit of a touristy route, and we did stop somewhere else. Where was that place along the river? And we just stopped the bus, and all the people come out of the houses, and that fisherman-y fella come over for a chat.
That was on the South Island near Havelock. So we stopped near one of the lakes there, and we thought, this would be like a nice opportunity just to get a bit of a video. And we're shooting this video, and we can see like all the way along the bank of this lake, there's this one guy with his boat, and he's sort of just watching. And when we finished our song, he's like the only one there clapping, and it was pretty cool. He ended up like coming all the way along the bank to meet us, and his name was Tony. If you're listening, Tony.
Well, there were others too. There were other houses, so
they didn't come down to the
this guy
shore though. They were
had
sort of just at their balconies, just looking.
He had to wander in for a yarn.
Yes.
So that was pretty cool. It was, for him, was probably just something totally like unusual for this band to be playing just like on the side of this lake randomly.
Just random step over.
So he just came along and said g'day, and we had a bit of a good yarn with him, and we went along our travels, so it was pretty cool.
I think the instrumentation has been a big comment to a lot of people on this tour. with the sound, and even with the sousaphone I'm playing, it's a Jupiter 26-inch sousaphone. It hasn't got a brass bell, it's fiberglass. And I think the tone is a little less edgy, it's rounder, and you know, it might be the sound that I am going for. But a lot of people have come and gone, oh, you know, it's different, the sound, because you get all those horns together, and it's like, it's a pretty fulfilling sound, you know, and I'm enjoying
and
that.
it's engaging, and and I mean, certainly we don't get a lot of that in Hamilton.
It's soothing too, is a word. I've got a homeless dude. We'd got a kebab somewhere, and someone had one half left, and I was like, I don't want to throw it out. And I saw this dude. I'm like, you hungry, man? He's like, yeah. I said, you want this? He's like, oh, thanks. He's like, you were those guys playing that music. He said, it was good, eh? It was soothing, very soothing. You know, we don't hear those combinations of sounds.
No.
And I was like, well, thanks. You know? And that's one of the reasons why I love it, because with us as a band, I feel we're sort of pushing for a bit of a sustainability level where we can be playing gigs. Like, we'll go busking, and we don't need to go, oh, can we have some power and 3 amps and a drum kit, and you know, we need all this stuff. We can just sort of
pick up and play,
and I haven't played in many groups. This is the only group in my whole life that I've had that versatility, you know. So we'll go somewhere and they'll say, oh no, we can't put you on the stage, and we're like, well, why don't we just do a marching gig for you? And they're like, well, cool.
Yeah.
So
it goes down a treat. I mean, you mentioned you're going to Auckland tonight, and it's particularly K Road, the area. You guys are going to be so well received up there.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it.
And I think you're going to have such a great time. It's a really colourful street with a lot of colourful people, and I think you guys are going to go down a treat there. Yeah. Awesome. And what is it, the Thirsty Dog?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, which is a great venue as well. Yeah, so I mean, we're lucky enough to there's, including Ivan and the Navara Lounge where you played last night, there's probably 4 or 5 little venues like that really cater for original acts in New Zealand.
Awesome.
And unfortunately, the number's getting smaller. But I think it's great that you guys can come and play New Zealand. And I'm going to try and get this podcast edited and out on Monday.
Sure.
So so obviously the listeners of the Na-Lata Project, if you're and I obviously link it to your dates and everything, and I'd say to everybody, come out and see you guys, because it's an amazing night.
Awesome.
Even to the point too that we want to come back. So for us, it's like the beginning of networking, and I found most of the contacts that we've made with music that have been wholesome have been the ones where we've actually gone to a venue and we've sort of looked at the scene and the strip, and we've gone, you know what, that bar suits us, and we're going to be monogamous to that bar. So in this strip, that's like Navara Lounge is our bar. In that area, that's our bar. And we say to them, look, we don't want to come here and play at every bar. We want to come and have our cubby house, you know, our home. So we come on tour and we generally go and meet people, and it's hard to tell online. It's hard to tell, you know, looking through a Google Maps, and it's also on their end. It's hard when someone sends you an email and says, oh, I'm so great, look at my credentials, because it doesn't really mean much now. Like, it's easy to look good in that medium.
Oh, of course,
So for me, being kind of old school Queenslander, like, you go and meet people, it's like someone says, oh, I'm good at a job, or I'm good at this. Well, it's like, well, okay, are you? You know, you get on the tools, and within a quick second, you're like,
you know,
old mate can't even measure.
He's a good talker.
You know.
And you know, like just to touch on that subject with social media and that, and filters, and it is so easy to like project
substance.
You know, and it's as easy as taking a photo and editing it and putting it out there. But no, it's good to see like genuine authenticity through music, and you know, you're obviously really cool people I think it's being lost in the music industry. I mean, I had a guy, and he's a good friend of mine, on the podcast a couple of months ago, and he just through sheer coincidence and just sheer luck, that he has had an amazing career in the New Zealand music industry, and it was as simple as he was down on his luck in Australia. He was about 19. He flew into Auckland Airport. He had to sell everything in Australia,
Wow.
and he got picked up by these punk rockers, and then became. From there, they formed a band. He didn't know how to play music, but from there, sort of got involved with Hello Sailor and the Dudes, and became their roadie, and then became a band manager and all that sort of thing. So, yeah. So it's but where am I going with this? I don't know where I'm going with this, but
It's cool to hear about.
How,
Yeah.
I think it's how lucky, like how sometimes it's not always the effort and the work and the substance of it. You can be lucky and end up working it by just pure luck.
Yeah.
Or you can get to the point where you put the hard yards in, and then you can sort of go, well, this. I think with the industry, it goes in cycles. So the bright lights, and people get famous for someone putting them in, but then people go, hang on a minute, we kind of want that substance thing again.
Yeah.
And then so fashions and fads seem to go round and round, and I think at this point now, it's easy to look good on the internet, but there are a lot of people with really great pictures on substance online, and then you get them in real life, and unfortunately they're not level. And I'm not, to me, I think everyone's got the chance to be better or match it, or they say I've got an identity online, but sometimes it's not at the same level. And I think we're trying to pave our way through the fact that the world stopped, and we're all out again wanting to tour and play.
Yeah.
So the economy's trying to settle again. People as humans are trying to adjust to say, well, what really matters in the world? So it's... Anyway, that's my spin on that. And that's kind of where we're at. I love music. I don't want to sit around playing sad songs. I feel that a lot of the music we do with the cultural mix, it's all vibrant. It's all about sustainable growing of food, building houses that are sustainable, being in situations where you've got to decide. And there's one song we do, it's called What You Gonna Do, and it's a ska tune. It's up, but the basic hook is well, when the shit hits the fan and your decision's up, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
What you gonna do? And it's kind of funny, but so that's our touring is sort of trying to cut it out again and give it a chance to say, hey, we got substance and we believe in that, and we're trying to go and meet people firsthand and say, hey, we're doing this, and then we'll plan another tour. So with listeners and that are into it, even if they say, hey, this is great, they might not catch the gig in Auckland, but they'll say, oh, I'm going to look out for these guys because we'll be back. And that's how you network. You sort of say to crew, hey, I've met you. And, I've never walked into a house or a country with my hand out going, oh, what do you got for me? So we're happy to come here and just give our music and say, well, And it's funny because I don't think you ever stop earning it, No. Work never ends.
No, it doesn't.
So, and with arts, I've never sort of gone in saying, oh, I'm an artist and I need to be paid. I sort of go in and give, and I feel if you give unconditionally, hopefully that point will come where you get it back.
And I think the world needs a lot more of that.
Yeah.
Because it's just going back to that whole sort of media thing, and I really like that philosophy because it is very much projecting an image and for what I can get out of it. So it's really nice to see that that philosophy of just giving. It's so important.
Definitely.
Yeah, well, there's another song that the guys do, and it's called Holding Back Your Love, and we released that through the last 3 years, and it was kind of that philosophy in full. It was saying, well, it's never enough when you hold back your love. So it's basically saying if you kind of go in 100% and give it everything, kind of, I call it the Viking, you know, to Valhalla, you know.
Yeah.
But it's like that philosophy. If you kind of go in a little bit hesitant, you get, say, for nothing, you get nothing. For a little, you get a little. And for a lot, you get a lot. So if, you know, and at the end of the day, if you don't get the achieved result, but you've given it everything, you can't sort of regret it anyway. You sort of just, well, you know, plenty more where that come from. And
exactly, and all the learnings that you pick up along the way,
yeah.
What's next after Auckland? What's the rest of the tour looking like?
So we've got one more show for the tour after Auckland, and that's in, pardon me if I don't pronounce it correctly, but Tauranga.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah,
cool.
you nailed it.
Thank you. We're playing there on Sunday as part of the fundraiser that they've got for Cyclone Gabrielle that just went through. Yeah,
Nice.
so they decided to put one on just to help those who were affected by the cyclone.
Yeah.
And we originally were booked to play at the venue itself, and then they emailed me about a month ago saying, "Hey, look, we're actually putting on this fundraiser on that during the day. You know, if you want to be a part of it, that'd be awesome.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Might be a good way of promoting your gig later that night." And I said, well, why don't we just make that a part of our tour? Just really focus on doing that show. And they said, yeah, sure, that would be amazing. So yeah, we just decided to roll with that. So yeah, we're going to be playing for that fundraiser. It's going to be for a great cause, and I think it's going to help a lot of people. And yeah, just bring that really good energy there.
And whereabouts is that in Tauranga?
It's at the Hop House.
Yeah.
So it'll be there. There'll be a couple of other acts playing as well.
Nice.
There'll be all sorts of other fundraiser stuff going on there as well. So yeah, it'll be a really nice day.
Is that on Sunday?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
This coming Sunday?
Yeah, this Sunday. And then we're back home on Monday. So
wow. Yeah, well, tour. And so what's planned for when you get back to Australia? Are you going to continue touring or have a bit of a break?
Festivals, gigs. Melbourne's like here. The scene has taken a huge knock from the global pandemic. So I find a lot of areas working out who's stood the test of time, because a lot of venues shut.
Yeah.
And they were good venues who were already sort of wearing their heart on their sleeve to keep open as a proud live music venue and etc. So others have come through, but it's sort of filtering out whether who's paying who and who wants to pay. So a lot of venues from the day the doors open again, they wanted acts, but they didn't want to pay them anything. They were, we love you, but can you do it for nothing?
They couldn't
pay. And it wasn't. But there's also that avenue where there was exploitation going on, where some were like, well, we'll have you, but we can't pay you. But they were still charging for food, drink, and beverage entry. So, but where I'm getting to is we're back in Melbourne, so a lot of the normal places people played aren't there anymore, and there's others, and I feel there's a lot of venues that have the capacity and the potential to be good live venues, because they got great space, good sound, but they're not doing it. So the scene's kind of got to build again, and that's what we're back. We've got festivals booked. We aren't doing the long touring as of yet because it's just not sustainable financially. Because once we could book 6 shows in a row, and fight for a day off. Now it's not so frequent, and unfortunately, creatively wise and artist wise, we rely on money to
Well,
and us, the 3 of us, we all worked, and we were like, you know what, we love our art that much that we're going to go to a day job, and just to sustain it. And the music does pay a lot, but generally I think what it's come down to as an artist for me is you go, you study, you put the time, the energy, but then it's sacrifice. If you can't, for me, if I was like, I'm just doing music, I wouldn't leave home. I'd practice and all. I'm going to do some yoga, and I'm going to do this, that'd be lovely. But in this real world we live in, it's true sacrifice to get it, unless you're on a trust fund or and that's most in the world aren't on that.
No.
So to build that financial freedom and then have choice, you have to sacrifice as an artist to get it. So that's kind of our journey.
Yeah.
Where I'm coming from, because I love the music, it comes first, but I'm a tradesman as well.
Yeah,
so
right.
I did a trade at 15.
Yeah.
Been in it all my life, and that's what it takes this day. The penny kind of dropped in the pandemic. It was like, shit, I can't gig every night. I'm actually going through a little bit of withdrawals. I need to keep busy. And I was like, well, you know what?
Let's paint a house.
Let's make money, like to sustain. And let's
grow
make
a
sure
garden
that
as
our
well.
instruments
We did
are
a lot of
good, and we grew food all the way through it. So we were eating perennials like silver beet and parsley and warrigal greens, and these are all just
Potatoes.
potatoes. Yeah.
But getting back to what we're doing when we arrive back home, we do have a few songs to finish recording. So that's one big thing I want to focus
We
on
laid
as well.
down, how many tunes did we lay down, bed tracks for songs?
Lost count.
Lost count.
There's a lot.
So basically, if you were talking about being a tradie, we put down so many slabs for houses, and a lot of them have got the walls and the roof, and
just need
decking
finishing
out,
up.
finishing. A few doorknobs,
So do you guys record and do you go to a studio, or are you doing it at home? You've got
We are actually really blessed to have a studio at home.
nice,
So-
So what are you running, like Pro Tools or something like that? Or
Logic.
Logic, that's such a good system. I find Pro Tools just blows my mind, but Logic's actually pretty. Well, it's not easy to use, but it's a lot easier than bloody
I
Pro
let
Tools.
these, Steve and Zach are the users of Logic.
We engineered a lot. Basically, when stuff went pear-shaped and we knew we were spending a lot more time in the studio, I had a 12-channel ATB Triton desk, and it's like a copy version of a desk that the Beatles used in Abbey Road.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
80Bs, but this is called an ATB.
TV, yeah.
So we bought this desk.
So you're getting that sort of like old school valve sound, eh?
Yes, yeah. Well, and
yeah,
this is
yeah.
hooked up through there's a 16-track Tascam tape machine, but then a door. So when we're really keen, we set up and record to tape, and then get like when you're doing lots of drums and percussion. But we didn't. That's it's sort of horses for courses. When you want to do that, you can, and that's how it got set up, and that's how it was set up to be able to just patch in to a tape machine or patch in to a door, which is a Mac with your Pro Tools, analog digital converter, Aurora sound card. So we went, we're going back to record, and we were like, well, what do we need? Let's get some toys. So we went and bought a Neve preamp, and it's kind of like another expensive piece of instrument, a tool, but it's how was your first reaction when we plugged the Neve in and we're like, let's just tweak this? It took things to another level.
Yeah.
So we were like, vocals, finally, because we'd always kind of, spent the energy on the music, and then it came to the vocals, and you always felt like it was a bit short. So, and especially with Sarah singing, I was like, well, you know what, she deserves to get the best
equipment,
well, the chance to get it out, and that's kind of life. Sometimes someone has a crack and everything around it doesn't really support it, and you kind of think, well, you know what, if old mate had the right support, it would have worked.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like that with a lot of things, like if you put the right infrastructure into it, it'll
exactly
work.
yeah. And so it's and to your point, it's if you can set up front end before you go into the DAW, right? And have all that dialed in before you even record it through some old valve drawing gear. The quality's so good.
And it's tuning too.
Like
if
tuning, and just the even just a change of microphone on a vocal can make such a difference, right? You can use like a dynamic mic or whatever, but I know we recorded some we were doing like a rock track with our vocalist at the time was essentially from a country background. So, but she was doing a rock vocal, and they were trying to capture it digitally, and then so the producer just changed to a ribbon microphone, and it just like made all the difference. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, that knowledge of equipment, it never ends. And a lot of times, if you've got an entrance to it, like, I'm on a tangent for it, but like sometimes I'm at that point in my life, I don't really want to pay for someone to learn to do something for you that you want at a higher level. So a lot of times you're forced to take on the learning because you know that the passion and the love that you have for it, you're going to actually see a lot more detail than someone that's just getting paid to learn.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So with equipment now, you really need to kind of know what your tools are and learn, how it goes in, or unless you are trying to source someone that you're going to pay for that knowledge.
Yeah, because we all know studio times.
It's
Bloody
expensive, but
yeah.
the thing is if you, that's the money thing too. So I don't necessarily think it's cheaper sometimes to record at home, but I think if you're really well rehearsed and you're the music you believe in, that you could walk into a studio and actually just be an artist, it's easier than wearing multiple hats. So, and that's the thing. It's whether you want to feel like you're learning on the job or learning on the job and being paid to learn. I think you need to have a level of skill set where you are learning on the job and being paid, but that skill set you got is worthy to run with it. If you know what I mean. You're not, whether you're a tradie, you're a musician. You're not learning a language.
You've got your tools, you just have to learn how to use them with whatever band you're working with.
Yeah, or the scenario of knowledge. So you can take your drawing from a foundation of knowledge to learn on the job. And there's a difference, because making it up as you go along with no foundation isn't really learning on the job. So that's what I'm saying. Well, in the studio, like Zach came into the studio and he already had a foundation from when he was studying, and he was like, "Oh yeah, okay, so this works. Oh yep." And we both were like, "Yep."
Is that sort of like on the production level?
Yeah.
Sort of, yeah.
And I had too, because I built the studio.
Yeah,
I was
right.
like, "Yep." We looked at a home and we're like, "Oh yep, we're artists. We just need a bass. This is great." First thing we did was went into the garage. Like, we're building a studio. It was like done.
The car can stay outside.
Didn't even look at the toilet. Didn't even check if there was hot water. But that point of you have to learn and take it on, or you're paying someone for really, and that's what I did with that process. There were certain things with power and certain things with wiring and equipment where I went and actually paid people for their 20, 30 years experience to get the knowledge. And then there was a point where I was like, hey, we can actually do this on the fly, because we've, the books, the sound engineering books and the books you read, that remember mixing in your mind, there's all these books that guys brought out. So yeah, there was a point where I went, yep, he's got the knowledge, the knowledge, we can do this.
Yeah.
And
you had the time for the last 3 years.
And that was the thing. So now we etched a whole bunch of songs, and a lot of them were planned, and then there were a lot of them that weren't planned. It was just like, and I could tell, because like we work together, and Zach he'll like to keep it kind of, we're doing this and this, and I'll be the one going, oh well, we're in the moment now with this, and this feels good, let's put this down too. But now that we look back on it, it was awesome, and you were worried, like, oh, I don't want to put that down, it's not good enough. I'm like, are you kidding, man? You're, you can play that thing, you can play that bass,
It could always be better.
Yeah, but it's funny, because I don't know if life ever gives you the perfect storm, every now and then maybe, but I think a lot of times it's that.
And I think with any art form, that you endeavour to learn, I don't think there's ever a finish line. It's just like a musical instrument, or whether you're learning a martial art or a sport. There's there's a start and you improve, but there's never a finish line.
Exactly.
There's always more to learn.
I think
right?
when you get if you get to a point where you think you know, then that's like you're stopping evolving.
Yeah.
And I feel with us, and I mean with working with Zach and working with Sarah and a lot of the younger guys that come in with us, it's that hunger to learn new stuff and the openness to want to be hungry to learn. I get that. Like, I love it. I'm quite aware of the challenge. It'd be like someone turning around to a painter and saying, oh, you're going to paint that house. You know how much work's involved from the start to the finish.
Yeah.
Whereas, so do I. Like, if someone says, oh, you're going to record this song, or you're going to start a new album, or you want to write a whole bunch of charts for a new tour, it's knowing that it's a massive, big commitment.
Yeah. And the other
you know,
thing too, like this, you're a big band. I know it's you get a bunch of creative people together. How do you manage that?
They just listen to me and do
You
exactly what
you
I
just
say.
play along. So, yeah.
Not at all. No, I think it is strange if you're with a new group of people and you've got to kind of adjust to everyone. It's always good to have that time at home before you go on tour, but when you're on tour, you just have to roll with everything.
Yeah.
Have coffee straight away in the morning.
Yeah.
And I think actually touring, the music's easy. Like if I
Well, it's easy if the music's good.
Yeah. Like if people do, if you come in, and it's like any exchange, but if you're running music and there's a certain amount of systematic, studious work, like everyone's got their building blocks and they've learnt their bits, they've got their parts. If you come together musically and everyone's sort of got the building blocks, I find that's easy to put music together. But if you come and someone's, old mate's turned up with his ute full of tools, and then next old mate's turned up with a blunt chisel, it's hard to get pumping. But if everyone's rocked up with their full ute of tools, you're like, well, righto, let's get this cranking.
Yeah.
And it's the same with music. So if someone's turned up and they've learned the tunes, got it in the head, and then it's like, well, let's sculpt this together. You're not, no one's scrambling and, oh, fuck, how does that go? Excuse me, I didn't mean to swear on your podcast.
Nah, it's independent media,
I
mate.
never
You can say
swear.
piss, dick and shit.
I never
whatever you want.
swear. I said the F-bomb. But, yeah, and there's a lot of, and I think coming from a trade background, farming, mechanical, my parents were like tractor wreckers. My old man,
Steve's the black sheep.
Yeah, but getting that click to put it together, and touring, generally if that's on, it's really easy. If that doesn't work, it gets sort of harder, and then the wheel starts to be a bit clunky.
Yeah.
And then if the wheel clunks a bit, generally it'll fall off soon.
Yeah.
So
and like there's no better feeling than playing a tight gig, and you just know. I mean, you guys. Well, I've got a recording of you guys last night after you came off stage, and you had all your instruments, and you came into the crowd, and I was watching it again this morning, and it was tight. Like, it's so good. Yeah. So I mean, that must be an amazing feeling.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. I think everybody came out of there last night pretty happy. It was cool. Like from a someone in the audience's perspective, it was very, very enjoyable.
Navigating those stairs was interesting.
coming in,
Coming
it was
in.
like, and being the
I felt
sousaphone.
bad because I went marching on and I was like, where is everyone? I realised Steve was still trying to duck under the doorway.
Well, it wasn't a duck. It's normally, if you got a duck, it's fine. But I had a duck and a stair jive kind of thing going on. So I was like, and then there was like a flat area.
But he
of
didn't stop
steps.
playing, which was pretty good.
I was doing the crouch and hidden Zusa player. Yeah.
Oh, the amount of times we've been we've managed to get a car park at like the Wintec, which is the other side of town, It's pissing down rain. You know, we've got 3 guitars, amps. You know, running down to the Navarro Lounge.
So we got the
We got
VIP
the
treatment.
yeah, that's so good. Yeah.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
good last night.
They lowered the bollards and it was
Oh,
awesome.
nice. Yeah.
Pulled the tour band in.
Yeah. Oh, us local bands, we have to walk.
Well, we're starting to hear that. We'll always be touring. I do want to make a note today. We've got our trumpet player with us, and she's been signing the whole time
Yeah.
because that's one of her extra skills. And big shout out to Carmen because we're going to put all the attention on her.
Yes.
And
It's been awesome.
and
yes.
impressive trumpet player too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, multi-skilled.
Unbelievable trumpet player. So good. Yeah. So, tell me about, if you don't mind sharing the mic.
I
yeah.
don't mind at all.
Yeah. Sign
Hello.
language. Yeah. All right. So, sign language. How did you come about learning sign language? Have you got?
I was actually born deaf, and so Auslan, which is Australia Sign Language, is my first language. And yeah, I thought it'll be good to sign, get these guys to look what Auslan is because they wanted to learn a little bit about it. So I'm just here signing most of I can. I'm missing a bit of the conversation, but hopefully no one picks up on it.
That's, I had no idea. So, yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
A lot of people ask. I was born deaf. We don't know why. Genetic, maybe, I don't know. I didn't lose my hearing, but yeah, born deaf. Moderately severely deaf. So I'm not profound. So I can hear most things. It's just at different sounds are different dynamics. So it's just a different combination of sounds that I hear.
Yeah. Wow.
But yeah, that's a whole other different venue for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And so how do you play? How did you come about playing the trumpet?
I picked up the trumpet back in 2006.
That might help.
Hello. Oh.
There you go.
Look out.
So in 2006, I was in year 7. I picked up the trumpet just because it looks cool. And I was actually a classical player. And then I did, year 12 music, went to uni in Melbourne. I moved down from the country in Victoria. And then did my degree, looked into contemporary music. And then many moons later, Zach contacted me on Facebook and was like, hey, we're looking for a trumpet player. We're going on tour. And I was like, yeah.
Yeah, so cool. Yeah. And do any other instruments, or you just basically?
I can play about 11 instruments to like a beginner level. I do teach trumpet and trombone at a high school and primary school back home. But trumpet is my favorite and forever my number one.
Yeah.
It's your baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's my baby.
So who inspirations, trumpet players?
Wynton Marsalis is my favorite trumpet player of all time, and I've met him a few years ago.
Oh, lucky.
And he quoted, I told him a bit about myself, and he quoted, "You are amazing." And I will forever remember that moment. I was fangirling so much.
Awesome.
That's so cool.
Yeah. But other influences, the Cat Empire from Australia, they're my favourite band.
Harry, if you're listening.
Yeah, Harry, good on you. Just Snarky Puppy as well. Like different contemporary mixes with different influences. So when jumping onto this band, it was actually really good to have that combination of everything.
Yeah.
And I'm enjoying it so much. So
Yeah. I can tell you guys obviously enjoy each other's company, enjoy playing together because it really comes out in the music, and it's really apparent and easy to see. Where are we at? Well, we're getting on a bit, but look, thank you so much for coming in, guys, and I enjoy the rest of New Zealand. And anybody out there, please get along and see these guys. I'm going to link all your socials and everything. I'm going to try and get this edited and out on Monday. So we'll include the rest of your tour dates for next Sunday, Tauranga. And good luck, guys, and I hope to see you back again. And hopefully you can come on the Na-Lata Project again.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Yeah,
Thank
it's
you.
been a
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Yeah,
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
So good. Cheers.
Cool.